Welcome to this webinar today. It also happens to be the World Health Day. And because I'm fortunate to have a webinar on this particular day, at this time I thought let's just not talk about the regular things that I'm very passionate about, like hypnotherapy, like mind sciences. I thought this time I'll do something which is a little different. I'm going to link the connection of our mind to our physical body. And that's the topic for today: fit mind, fit body. For all of you who are meeting you for the first time, my name is Arpita. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist at Illuminations Dubai in JLT. Apart from hypnotherapy, I also practice family constellations. I am a transpersonal regression therapist, and I do spend a lot of time doing corporate wellness programs. So I work as a therapist. I work with clients one-on-one. So that's one part of my role. I am actively engaged with corporate clients, bringing the benefits of the wellness into the corporate world. And I'm a teacher of clinical hypnotherapy. So I am very passionate about sharing this knowledge, this science to as many people as possible around the globe. This was not my first career choice. I studied economics. I am an MBA, and I worked in the corporate sector for more than 15 years. And then many years back, I got introduced into this line of work. I came myself as a client. I had a physical issue that I wanted to work with, which was just not for me. I had also passed it on to my daughter. And I think part of the story begins there, that when you see that happening as a mother, I was like, okay, I have to get answers to it. And I tried everything. It didn't give me the results that I was expecting until I stumbled across, to begin with, mind sciences, hypnotherapy. That's how my journey began. I came in as a client, and I was absolutely amazed to see how it kind of completely transformed not only my life, but also my daughter healed completely without any intervention, no medical intervention, no spiritual intervention, no therapy intervention. Just by the fact that I worked on the issue that was with me, I saw my daughter healing. That's when I took a U-turn back, and I came back and I started to study the science of the mind, of how we have thoughts that affect our emotions, and how those emotions affect our energy, and how that energy finally translates into manifesting the good or the not so good in our physical bodies and in the physical existence around us. That's my story. I'm from India. I've lived in Dubai for more than 13 years now. I live here with my husband. I have twins. And when I'm not working with my clients and I'm not doing the workshops or the webinars, then I'm spending time with my family. That's about a short introduction about who I am. I'm extremely passionate about this line of work. Precisely the reason why I moved from my corporate career into this was because I have witnessed the power of healing through the mind, translating into the body, and yeah, that's what made me took the jump from the corporate sector into this line of work. And that brings us to what I have for you for today, in the next 1 hour. I always believe that it shouldn't be just theory that I'm talking about. There's no joy in taking you through a presentation like we do when we are at work. I want to leave with you, if not major shifts, but at least awareness of how our mind and our bodies are connected. And each one of you, I promise, will have a very different way of looking at it. So to begin with, I want to talk a little bit about mind, because as much as we use the word, sometimes we don't even pay attention to what is the difference between mind and brain, and are they the same or are they different? Coming from there, from mind, going into more details of our physical body, which is very easy for us to understand because it's tangible and we feel pain, we feel pressure. So it's somewhere a little more easy to grasp than the subtle bodies. Getting into now the details of just not the physical body and the diseases and the manifestation of pain in our bodies, but the interconnection between our thoughts coming down to emotions, coming down into the energy levels, and then finally integrating it into this whole 4 bodies together. That's what I'll talk about when I speak about the integrated model, the mind-body connection. And then finally, having known that, I will leave with you a very broad view of how to understand what our bodies are telling us. Because many a times, and especially when we are in the mode for quick healing, or we get intrigued with mind sciences, we kind of forget or we keep the body as the second option. But it's a fact that we are alive, we are on planet Earth, and it is very, very important to understand the language of the body. So when I say language of the body, any pain, any discomfort is not necessarily a bad thing. It is actually an invitation to look deeper into our mind, into our emotions, into our energy levels, and read it. So my intention today is to bring to you that awareness. So after this 1 hour of knowing this connection, the next time a part of your body is trying to talk to you, you will just not ignore it, saying that, oh, it's fine and it's going to be okay. But you will at least try now to come closer, question yourself, and sometimes you will see remarkably, you don't need to do a big intervention. Sometimes just asking the right questions, depending on which part of your body is showing some kind of pain, discomfort, some symptoms. So I want to leave you with that. And of course, I will be available for question and answers. And as I mentioned, you can use the chat box in between. I don't see this any other messages. I'm just going to check. But I will get an notification once any of you type anything in. And as I said, please feel free to stop me, ask me any questions that you like. So to begin with, I want to start with the mind, not with the body, because body is where we will finally go. So we use this word very frequently, right? And it's not a difficult word, it's not an unknown word. But before I go into talking more about the mind, because that is where our topic today is, the fit mind and fit body, I would like if some of you at least can share with me, what do you think is the mind? Where is your mind? And how would you define your mind? And I'm hoping each of us agree that we have a mind which we use, which we try to control. Sometimes we get controlled by it, and sometimes we are able to control it. So if any of you would be kind enough to just share your thoughts about this simple 4-lettered word, mind. What is it? Where is it? And how do you know you have a mind? You can either unmute and share your views, or you could simply type in and explain and share with the rest of us what you think is mind. Neha? Neha says mind is awareness of yourself. Yes, of course. Self and body and things in the mind. Okay. I understand what you're saying. It's the total awareness of our being. So that brings me to the next question. Where is our mind? Mind is just a term used to express the thoughts, chemical reactions in the body. Yes, Aishwarya, I do agree with you. I agree with you partially, to the extent that mind is a term to use to express our thoughts, definitely. When we talk of chemical reactions in the body, we are actually talking of the brain, because that's where the chemical reactions start, or the chemicals are released into our body in certain ways. So is mind your brain and brain is equal to your mind, or is there a difference? Because they're completely two different words. Because we know where the location of brain is. Each one of us know we have a brain inside our skull, in the head we have a brain. But do we know where our mind is? Okay. So I get a feel of what you're saying, and I agree with you. And in fact, it is a little difficult sometimes to, answer these questions, because I guess brain is more easier for us to pinpoint because it's physical. So when I came into this line of work, I found it also extremely not confusing, but something that I couldn't wrap my brain around, because I thought my mind and my brain is one and the same thing. But it so happens that they're not. And that's the reason we have two different words to describe these two assets that we possess. Now, even if forget mind science and forget holistic sciences and the approach of looking at life as the whole, or even a spiritual approach, keep all of that aside. If you just go on Google and you search what is mind, you just go to Oxford Dictionary. Even the Oxford Dictionary definition of mind says it is that element of a person that enables them to be aware of the world. So this is exactly what Neha was saying, the awareness of our thoughts. But the fun part here is it is an element of a person. What I'm trying to drive home here is mind is something that is intangible. Mind is not equal to the brain. Mind is that element, that thing, or whatever you want to say. It's actually a good definition to say it's an element through which we are experiencing the world. We are aware of the world around us. And the experiences that I gather through this world. It is the faculty of my consciousness. It is, as Neha said, it is the faculty of our thought, what we think, what we feel. Why I bring this definition to you is because the only difference between the mind and the brain is as good as looking at it as a software versus an hardware. So for example, I am connected to you now, definitely through my hardware, which is my laptop right in front of me. And every time I want to move to a different slide or check a comment, all I'm doing is I'm touching the hardware, I'm working through the hardware. But just having the hardware doesn't allow me to connect to you. I am using many software programs like the Microsoft PowerPoint, I'm using the Zoom, which I cannot touch, I cannot feel. So even when I have to connect to Zoom, I am apparently having a link that I click on, and then I am in this space with you, in this virtual space. This is exactly how the mind and the brain is. So in holistic sciences, we define mind as a vibrating ball of energy all around us, the center of which is at the pit of my stomach. It's a very weird and a very interesting definition. First and foremost, it's not the brain. Brain is the hardware, and the hardware functions, and that's the part of the body with the input that comes from the software. So in other words, mind is actually, it's a force, it's a powerful force. It's it's energy, it's a vibration, it's a vibratory ball of energy that is around us. Now, the fun part is, at the end of the day, it's a tool. The million-dollar question here is that, are you in charge of your tool? Are you in control of your mind? Or is your mind controlling you? And that I will leave for you to answer individually for each one of us. And most of the cases, you will see there are times when we are in good control of our minds. And there are times when we realize that something else completely overpowered, and it was as if the mind was controlling us. So to learn To understand this, if we can understand the functioning of the mind, if we can understand the way the mind functions, we are then able to use this tool to our benefit rather than this working against us. The brain, as I said, is the hardware. The mind is the software. So when I say the hardware and when I say the brain, this is also part of the body that we are talking about today. So there is a correlation, there is a connection. There are inputs that come from the hardware of our body, goes to the mind. There are inputs that come from the software that come into our body. And today we are going to understand this correlation. We're going to understand what are the different levels, what are the different layers, and how finally you can decode what's happening at the level of your thoughts, at the level of your emotions, by simply understanding what is happening in the symptom of your hardware. So if my computer now crashes and gives me a blue screen, that is a symptom of something that has probably happened to my software, which is intangible. And that's the core of what we are going to be talking today. I will not get into the details of the science of the mind. For the ones who are interested in it, maybe you can join me for my forthcoming webinars where I specifically talk of the science of the mind, and we talk of from the angle of the different therapies that we do, the different modalities that we practice. But for today, I just want you to understand very, very basic facts about this mind. So remember, the vibrating ball of energy all around us, the center of which is at the pit of the stomach. Now, before I go ahead, and because we are talking about physical body today and manifestations in the body, if you look at what is at the pit of our stomach, there is, in essence, we cannot physically find the epicenter, but we say that the epicenter of this sphere, what we call as the mind, is at the center of my stomach. And the organ that is at the center, the pit of the stomach, is the intestines, the small intestines precisely. And in other words, we call it the gut. And now you will smile when I say that we use this term, I have a gut feeling about a person, I have a gut feeling about a situation, which we use very randomly. But in essence, if you go by the gastrointestinal tract, the function of the gut is to digest the food we eat. The gut cannot feel a situation or feel a thing, yet we use this word. Also, we have a lot of sensations mostly in our stomachs. We say, I have butterflies in my stomach. But if you cut open the stomach, no butterfly, no larva, no pupa, none of this will fly out of my stomach because they don't physically exist. But then why do you feel all those sensations in your stomach? Is because the center of the mind is situated there. So if this is the mind, the structure of the mind is same for everyone. It doesn't vary. And very simply, we know mind broadly has two parts. There's a conscious part to the mind and there's a subconscious part to the mind. Now look at this as an iceberg. When you see an iceberg in an ocean, we all know that only 1/10 of that iceberg is actually visible. The remaining 9/10 is below the level of water. And it's exactly the same with our minds. The conscious mind is only about 10%. Some schools actually say it's less than 5%, but say approximately 10%. And the subconscious mind is around 90%. Now, what do we mean by the conscious mind? What are the functions of the conscious mind? This is where all the activity is happening. So right now as well, you're using your conscious mind to think, to analyze, to logic, to feel, to decide, to judge. All these activities happen in the conscious part of the mind. And just imagine, we are only using 10% of our mind's capacity to live our lives. And by that logic, we are doing pretty well. Below that level is subconscious, which means subconscious. We are not able to access the power of that part on a regular basis unless we have the mechanism to tap into it. And imagine how life would change and how beautiful it can be if we are able to go down there and figure out what is not consciously known to us. So, if all our activities are happening in the conscious part of the mind, then what does the subconscious mind do? And why do we even have a subconscious mind? And the answer is very simple. Subconscious mind, unlike conscious mind, doesn't do 10,000 functions. It has two very, very simple functions. Number one is it keeps us alive. Survival. How does this happen and why we are talking about it again? Because our topic today is the body. The subconscious mind is the custodian of our internal body functions, our internal organ function. Vis-a-vis, the conscious mind is all about the voluntary movements in our bodies. So if I say, all of you switch on your videos, put up your right hand and wave at me, each one of you can do that because it's a very conscious, voluntary movement. Now, if I am so powerful and my mind is so powerful that I can consciously wave at you, logic says that by the same way, I can stop the rate at which my kidney is functioning at the moment. Would any of you try and stop your kidney functioning for just 5 seconds? And you laugh at me because we can't. Even if we can think of it, even I kind of know where my kidney probably is in my abdomen area, but I have no control of monitoring, of stopping, of speeding up the function at which, the rate at which my kidney is functioning. Because that internal organ function is governed and controlled totally by our subconscious mind. Hence, when we go to sleep at night, we don't tell consciously heart keep beating, lungs keep breathing, liver keep functioning, but it happens in autopilot. Most of the times we are not even aware of our breathing pattern. It is so unconscious. This is because this autopilot of our internal body functions is completely governed by the subconscious mind. That's function number one. And the second function is it's like the hard drive of your computer. It stores information. So if you look at conscious mind, it is more like the CPU of your computer, the central processing unit, where everything is coming in, is being juggled. So all that thinking, logic, analysis is there. But the subconscious mind is chilled out. It just stores. So imagine it's like an archive. It's like a hard drive where you have copied and pasted every moment of your life, which you may remember, which you may not remember, from the time that you were not even born, but actually from the time you were in your mother's womb. Each moment of your life stored in one file. And this, the beauty of this model of how this works is, if you consider the strength of your conscious mind to be 1 times x, the strength of our subconscious mind is 6,000 times x. And though I'm not getting into the details of mind science today, but this is where all the illogical things that happen in your life, all those questions that have not been answered lie here. For example, I want to lose weight. I consciously do everything. I have a diet plan. I'm on keto. I'm on intermittent fasting. I'm drinking 3 liters of water. And no matter what I do, my stubborn fat doesn't go. Or every time I'm in a relationship, I attract the wrong kind of partner. Constantly in life, I feel I'm unsupported and the people around me just don't understand me. All these aspects of what we call as the why me syndrome. Why am I stuck in this situation? The answers to those illogical situations, the logical answers always come from this zone. Now, this zone also has 2 parts. One is what we call the modern memory, which is my memory from the time that I had consciousness. So it is my exact life, and whatever I have experienced in this life is there. But the subconscious mind also stores information not only from my life, it stores information from time and beyond. And that is what we call as the primitive mind. This is what you could call as evolutionary memory. You could call as ancestral memories. You could call as past life memories, depending on your belief system. What it essentially means is something that is not necessarily mine, something that I have inherited from the past, from people who were there before me. And all of these impact, and they are somehow linked to how I feel emotionally, how I feel energetically. And then I'll come to explaining how this translates into typically body syndromes, into how we feel in our physical bodies. Now, before going into that, I'm just going to quickly check if there's any message on the chat, because I have just spoken a lot about this part, but doesn't look like we have. No, there are nothing on the chat yet. Okay, so going back to, now that you understand, this is one aspect, this is the mind that we are talking about. Now we are going to go into the details of understanding how is this now correlated to what I feel in my body. How can it be so enmeshed? Now, in order to go into that understanding, what I have with me today is a very simple model, what we call as the integrated approach. We say integrated because we are integrating. You can look at it in a way that we are going to talk about how this mind actually affects 4 levels of our existence. When I am saying 4 levels, I mean, of course, one of that is our gross physical body, but it's just not the physical body that we exist in, right? And you would agree to that. Why? Because I have a body and so does my phone. But there's a difference between me, because there is some kind of life force that is there in me vis-a-vis my phone, which can operate, but it doesn't have the life force. So we are just not made of our physical bodies. We are made of actually a little more than that, which means we just, apart from our physical existence and the physical body that we have, we actually have 3 other bodies, 3 subtle bodies that we talk of in holistic sciences. And they are the body of our thoughts, what we think, the body of our emotions, what we feel, and the energy body, the aura or the electromagnetic field that is around us. Mind controls the causal body through our thoughts. Mind controls the astral body through the emotions, and then that gets transformed into it comes into our aura, into our electromagnetic space, and finally it gets translated into our body. So I'm going to take you step by step through all of them. I think there is some comment on the chat. I'm going to quickly. Neha has a question. So then family constellation means tapping into the primitive memory. Neha, let me answer this at the end. Yes. It's slightly different. It's an oblique angle as well as when you say family constellations. But yes, you are not far away. It is tapping into in family constellations, though it's not mind science. Yes, you are tapping into your primitive memory. In one word, the answer is yes. But by the end of it, I'll give you a more descriptive answer. Sana says, I can't see the chat. Can you see now? I'm just typed in hi. Oh no, the hi has gone only to Neha. Hold on. Okay, Sana, good, you're back. Okay, so coming back to integrated approach. Whether it's holistic sciences, whether it's physical sciences, whether we're talking metaphysical, spiritual, or purely in this world, I think none of us will debate when we say that everything in this world starts with a thought. So, for example, even if you look at scientific inventions of the past, it's happened because somebody thought of an idea. It all starts with an idea or a thought. So the first premise with which we begin is we say we believe that thoughts are the seeds of any kind of creation in this world. So Thomas Alva Edison thought of a light bulb, and then many years later, he actually manifested, manufactured, and made one. This is our first level of existence. Each one of us have something which we call as the body of our thoughts. Technically, we call it the causal body. We think anywhere between 60 to 80,000 thoughts in a single day, 80% of which is repetitive. So you will notice there will be certain things that you are thinking of every single day, and then you repeat it again, and then you repeat it again. Now, if you could collect all those thoughts together subtly, that is what we call as the causal body. Now, how do you experience your causal body? Just close your eyes for the next 15 seconds, 20 seconds. With your eyes closed, now visualize yourself sitting wherever you're sitting right now. You know exactly the clothes that you're wearing. And just visualize yourself sitting on that chair, on the couch, wherever you are, wearing exactly the same clothes that you know you're wearing today. And now change the scenario. Imagine yourself sitting on that same chair, on the same couch, wearing the same set of clothes, but now instead of being in your room, you are now in a beach. Create that for yourself. There is sand, there are waves that are coming. Maybe it's sunrise, maybe it's sunset. Feel the warmth of that wind that is flowing towards you. And then come back to your couch, come back to your room, open your eyes, and you're back here in the webinar. Just a 5, 10, 15 seconds exercise. You did not physically go anywhere. You were still sitting wherever you were. Your physical body was right there, listening technically to the words that I'm saying. But your body of thoughts traveled to a beach. And that each one of you would have a different experience of the beach. That is your causal body. That's an example of how we can reach somewhere else just through imagination, just through visualization, just through the power of your thoughts. Because you know how you look, you know what you're wearing, and you have quite an amount of understanding of how a beach looks like. That is your experience of your causal body. Now, every thought that we think, whether we are conscious of it, whether we are not conscious of it, doesn't matter. Every thought creates an emotion. Thought in terms of energy is very potent. There is nothing like a good thought or a bad thought, or a positive thought or a negative thought. A thought is a thought. For example, if I think of my cute little puppy, it's just a thought. But the moment I think that, I have an image of my puppy in my head, and my heart is now full of love because he's so cute. Similarly, now I think of a missed deadline that I had to do something yesterday, I completely forgot. Immediately, my emotions change. Now, either it's shame, or either it's blame, or either it's guilt, something else comes up. So every thought that we think, in a sense, brings us toward the second body of our existence, which we call as the astral body, or the body of emotions. Example of this, you will hear of cases where new mother has given birth to baby. She finishes her maternity break and she's gone back to work. Mom is at work, deep into her tasks of the day. At home, baby cries for milk, and mother starts to lactate in the workplace. And we say, wow, see the power of the love between mom and baby, and how these miraculous things happen. Yeah, they do happen because mom and baby is intricately connected through emotions. That's probably the closest relationship that we have on earth. So physically, they are separated, but they're still connected through emotions. They're still connected through their astral body. If you break the word emotion, it is energy in motion. So thought, which was a potent energy, didn't move anywhere. It's just a thought. There's nothing negative, nothing positive about it. When it now starts to come to the next level, the thought creating an impact on the emotion, this is more kinetic energy. When these emotions enter our physical body, that's when we call that we have a feeling. What happens next? When thoughts create some effect on our emotions, emotions immediately affect our energy, or the third body, which we call as our energy body, the third level of existence. Now, what I'm explaining to you, I'm breaking it down. This happens in a millisecond. It doesn't take this amount of time for us to percolate from the level of thoughts into emotions, into energy, into physical body. But just for explanation, I'm just breaking it down for you to understand the step by step in which we impact things in our physical body. Coming down to energy body. Now we are very close to the physical body actually. Energy body is the electromagnetic field around us. It's nothing mumbo jumbo. It is nothing special. Each one of us have it because we are alive. We have biochemical energy within our physical body, and we have an energy space, which we call as the aura. Now, aura was a very questionable concept probably 20 years back, but today you can actually go to an aura therapist and get your aura photographed. And they can read the aura for you, and they can tell you what is happening in the energy field around you. This is how we say we get vibes from people. You know, this place has a good vibe. That person had a good vibe. The vibe is also because we are interacting with people through our energy body. I love this aspect because this is so scientific and this is so close to our physical bodies. How does this work? When we say aura, this is the electromagnetic field, and then we are talking about the energy centers in our body, which we call as the chakras. I'm pretty sure many of you will be aware of these words. For any of you, if you're new to this, chakras are the wheels, are the vortices of energy through which our life force is flowing. So you can call it prana, you can call it life force, you can call it chi. Anything that makes me alive vis-a-vis my phone is that life force. And this life force is apparently flowing through us through various meridians in the body, but more, if we just narrow it down, there are more than 110 chakras in our bodies, but we're going to just focus on the 7 major chakras. So there are these 7 major points in our bodies through which, imagine they're like turbines, so they should be rotating, and the energy is like water which is flowing through the turbines. In an ideal situation, our thoughts should create emotions that keep us in balance, that are positive, and then the energy flow is uninterrupted. Now, when there's a thought that creates a negative emotion, this immediately affects our energy system, which means if you go to an energy healer, they'll say this chakra is blocked, or one of these vortices are not moving in the way it should move. That's from the energy science point of view. Now look at it from the physical science point of view. If you look at the position of these chakras, say for example, you have the root, you have the sacral, you have solar plexus, heart, throat, third eye, and then crown. If you look at the position of these 7 major chakras, and now you look at human anatomy, you will see each chakra is situated right above one of your endocrine glands. Hypothalamus, pineal, thyroid, thymus, adrenaline, ovaries, testes, etc. Which means when a thought disturbs our emotion, that emotion affects our chakras. In other words, they are affecting your hormonal balance in your body. They're affecting it through the endocrine system of human body. As a result of which now hormones will not get secreted in the right amount as it should be. Body will start to produce more toxins than the right quantity of hormones. And finally, when the hormonal imbalance sets into the body, what we find is a disease in the physical body. I find this absolutely just amazing to see how energy sciences, holistic sciences, and medical science are all hand in glove. This is not to say one science is better than the other. So for example, when we look at physical body, something happens in the physical body and we go to doctors. Now, when we want to work at the level of our thoughts, we go to a hypnotherapist. When we want to work at the level of our energies, we go to an energy healer. This is how we are connected, the four bodies of our existence. Each one of us will have a preferred way of connecting. There is nothing, one is better than the other. All these lines of work, as far as I'm concerned, they are hand in glove. They are dovetailed and they go together. So even when we talk of hypnotherapy or we talk of regression therapy, we talk of family constellations, these modalities are not a substitute of medical science. In fact, we complement. We are complementary sciences. These are complementary modalities working on our thought body. So hypnotherapy is a very beautiful example of working with our thoughts, our beliefs, our patterns, going down to emotions, going down to energy, where you have Reiki, you have pranic, then you come down to body, you have acupressure, you have yoga, you have acupuncture, you have medical science. Now, any questions on these four bodies, these four levels of existence and their interconnectedness? Because the only thing left for me to now take you is to understand, categorize the body into 4 or 5 major parts and then take you through it for you to understand and give you a glimpse of how to understand your body, how you can heal, how you can get an entry point through your body into your healing journey. Let me quickly check in the chat box if there's anything else. Sana says, totally understand. Please keep going. You have an awesome way of explaining. Thank you so much, Sana. Thank you. Okay. So where's my presentation gone? Okay. So that brings us to the final part and probably the most interesting part. And I'm pretty sure each one of you will resonate, because at some point or the other, if not immediately now, each one of us have some body ache, some body pain, some discomfort, or some parts of our bodies that we are not happy about, how we look. And it all, I'm trying to encompass that in a very simplistic way. And what we call as body syndromes, or a sneak peek into understanding what's happening inside the other 3 bodies, but it's showing only in my physical body. Now, when I talk of body syndromes, please understand this is a very, very, very simplified version that I'm presenting to you, because it's a webinar, and should you be interested, I can do a detailed one on probably, organ regeneration, on working through the physical body, which personally I love, because I love my body and I respect my body, because we have one which sometimes we don't really care so much about, but it speaks to us. So what I'm doing is I'm going to divide the physical body into 5 parts, explain what it means to have a discomfort in any of these parts, and then look at the ailments that come up, the diseases that we kind of focus on when we are having a discomfort or a pain in any of these 5 parts. The first part, what we call as is the first of the 5 syndromes, is the crying syndrome. When we say we are talking of the crying syndrome, we are basically talking of the part of our body which is our head, so our face, the head, the back of the head, the throat. If you draw a V, that comes down to your solar plexus, includes part of your lungs, part of your heart. That is the area we are looking at. We are not looking at shoulders. We are not looking at the back yet. We are just looking at any discomfort that you have in the area of your head, neck, face, and a little down to your chest, like a V from the shoulders here down to your solar plexus. What do we generally feel in these areas? Most common things people come for therapy is migraines, sinus, headaches, sore throats, asthma, anything to do with this ENT area. You know, when we go to an ENT specialist, the eyes, the nose, the throat, the mouth, the ears. This also includes our jawline, dental fixtures, everything. Now, many a times you'll see doctors will not be able to find a reason why it happens. Like a very good example is migraines. Migraines come and go. Sinus comes and goes. Headaches come and go. Sore throat happens now and then goes away. So why do we call this as the crying syndrome? Is because most of the time, if we are suffering from anything in this region, the eyes of the people who are suffering from these ailments, they look like they're crystallizing, or, you know, there's a very glazy look in our eyes. And hence the term crying syndrome. It doesn't mean somebody is literally crying, but it looks like as if somebody is now going to cry. But it's the glazy look in the eyes. Most of the times, I'm generalizing, and I repeat, this is a very simplified version of the entire body syndromes. Most of the times, now, if any of you are suffering from any of these, or you have, you know, people who have it, ask the question, what is it that I am unable to decide on? Decision making. What is something that I need to choose, that I need to decide, that I need to take action, but for whatever reason, I am unable to do it? And you may find an answer to that leading into a healing journey of any of these health issues, which apparently have many reasons or no reasons whatsoever. What is it that you're not able to decide on? Decision making. This is your head, neck, face, chest zone. Next one is what we call as responsibility syndrome. And no points for guessing. It is our shoulders. It is the upper back and the spine. We are still not going into lower back. It could stretch till the middle back, but certainly not, we are not into lower back yet. Atlas Shrugged, the picture of carrying the entire world on my shoulders. So this is very, very common sometimes in terms of, let me give you an example where there's a lot of responsibility. So anytime when you have anything on your shoulders, especially upper part, upper back and upper shoulders, this is mostly the case when you have assumed a lot of responsibility and now it is very difficult to handle them, or you're finding it very, very difficult to handle it. If the pain or the discomfort is in the middle back, then it means there are a lot of responsibilities that you're shouldering. However, you do not have adequate support in your environment or around you. So if there are these persistent points, some people have aches at a certain point on their shoulder blade, or cervical spondylitis, for example, they cannot move their neck, their shoulders, upper back is stiff, middle back has muscular issues. If any of you have this, just look at what are those responsibilities that you've taken on consciously, unconsciously upon yourself that is now become very heavy. It's literally the load of the world, Atlas Shrugged, as I said, sitting on your shoulders. The third one is what we call as the sexual frustration or guilt syndrome. Now, the areas that we are looking at is the lower back, the lower abdomen, hip, and the groins. If there is an issue here, if there is pain here, or even if when you see, for example, somebody has a very proportionate body, but the hips are too big. Or there is this stubborn fat, there's this stubborn fat on the sides of like the love handles, as we say, or the lower belly fat. Or there are issues with lower back pain. So probable reasons that could, and I'm just throwing it open in the air. It doesn't mean that each one will relate to each one of you. But here we are probably looking at financial insecurity, if there is lower back pain, any kind of problems in the lower gastrointestinal tract, digestion issues, kidney issues, or sexual frustration. So when I say there is guilt, this could be sexual guilt, or it could even be parental guilt, which means guilt, unconscious guilt towards our parents, not as parents towards our children, the other way around. So if there's been any of these areas, or simply, you just don't like this part of your body, you feel you have worked enough and you exercise enough and just this part of the body doesn't look good when you look at yourself in the mirror, there's definitely reason to look at what is probably the unconscious guilt that you're carrying with respect to sexual frustration, or with respect to parents. As children, what do you feel towards your parents? Or look at anything that creates insecurity with your financial situation. And then coming to the next one is what we call as the fight syndrome. Fight syndrome is the area that we're looking at is our arms, our full hands. So starting from the joint here, our shoulder joint, coming down to the tip of our fingers. It includes problems with the elbow, tennis elbow. A lot of sports people have this. Upper arm pain, forearm pains, in the fingers, in the hands, anywhere in the hand is fight syndrome. Now, again, there are two probable areas from where this part of the body starts to talk to us. Number one is if you have set extremely high goals for yourself, which you're unable to reach. Literally stretching your arms, and I can't reach my goal. Very common with sports personalities, where they want to break a record or they want to make the best performance. Many a times you will see it's the arms that give up. Second area that you may want to look at, if there's any pain in your arms, is fight, literally confrontation. What is the area in your life that you would like to really confront, but for some reason you're not able to? You are literally forced to avoid the fight. I don't mean physical fight, and I don't mean an outburst. I mean something that needs to come to the surface, something that needs confrontation. What is it that you're avoiding, which will manifest in your arms? Fight syndrome. And last but not the least, obviously, flight syndrome, which means our legs. So any part from our hip joint going down to the tip of our toes, legs, foot. And what does this imply? This implies this happens many a times when you want to run away from something, when you really don't want to deal with it and you say, I'm done with it, I need to get out of this situation, but for whatever reason, I am stuck. This could be knee issues. This could be sciatica, coming from pain that comes from the spine down into our legs, varicose veins, any fractures, any injuries that come into the legs. Ask yourself, where in my life am I really want to get out of and I feel really stuck? So those are your 5 broad categories, 5 broad areas, and I've left you with open-ended questions. I'm not going to ask because it's an open forum, it's a group conference, so I'm not getting into a one-on-one chat with you, but You are more than welcome to talk to me later if you like. You can contact me. I will leave my contact details with you. But just try and understand how the body functions. Answer these questions for you. If you have a persistent pain, ache, injury in any part of any of these parts of your body, as I say, it's very broad. But yeah, when we work on a case-to-case basis, then of course we are kind of drilling down to the exact organ. In fact, if you are more interested, please go and pick up Louise Hay's books on Heal Your Body, and it's just amazing. Each part of our body, each organ, each tissue, each fluid that is there in our body can speak a lot. And it is just outstanding how easily you can go through all the four: your causal body, your astral body, your energy body, and your physical body. And that's what we call as being fit in the body, and then being fit in the mind, in the subtle bodies as well. And for people who find this interesting, we teach this in a curriculum which we call as integrated clinical hypnotherapy. I teach the first 2 levels at the moment. If that interests you, you can always contact Illuminations, and I'll be more than welcome to join. I'm more than happy to welcome you into my class. The next one is just around the corner, but we keep doing the courses. If this is something that intrigues you, please feel free to join me anytime. And I will leave this slide open at the moment for any of you to note down any contact details that you can reach out to me directly, or you could reach out to me via Illuminations. And we are good for question and answers. If there's anything specific any of you would want to ask, you can either unmute yourself or you can put it in the chat box. So no, I don't see. I think Sana's comment is the last one. Aishwarya, thank you. Thank you, Aishwarya. You found it helpful. Lata has a question. Isn't heart playing any role here? Yes, you can look at, I've not gone into the details, Lata, of every organ. Should you be interested, and maybe we will do it some other time. See, different schools of thought have different take on the organs. Heart does play a part. Heart is about giving and receiving love. So any ailments with the heart is for us to check if there's any blockage in our, again, in one of those bodies where either I am unable to receive love or I'm unable to give love. That's mostly with heart. Neha says, I feel I have 4 out of 5 syndromes. What sort of healing would work best in this case? Any healing will work, Neha, as long as you find it intriguing, you find it interesting, and you find your therapist and that modality credible. If it is physical, and yeah, it's not that we just have 1 or 2. You will see, because the body is a very good way of talking to you. So yeah, if it is, if you find 4 out of 5, you could look at body syndromes as part of hypnotherapy. Organ regeneration as part of hypnotherapy definitely will work for you. If you are a very kinesthetic and body-centered person as well, you could also look at transpersonal regression therapy, because the mode of starting that healing, like in hypno, we are doing it with the mind. In transpersonal regression therapy, the root is through the body. So you could try any of these 2. Thank you, Lata. I'm glad you found it interesting. Thank you, Ellen. Thanks, Kimo. Thanks, Neha. Neha, I will answer your question about family constellations. I know that you like it, and see, end of the day, they are different roads. You know, all roads lead to Rome. It's something very, very similar. So yes, technically you are right. We are tapping into primitive memory. Should it be ancestral? So in family constellations, you see many a times it's ancestral, but then family constellations has an oblique view to it. So it's just not your family line. You know, we are also looking at countries, cultures, religion. So yes, if you want to draw a parallel, primitive mind is what we would call as ancestral healing, as family constellations, as past life therapy, whichever way and what you believe in. It is one and the same and more. Welcome. Okay. I don't see there are any other questions. I will be here for a couple of minutes more. If you have any questions, you can unmute, or you can, of course, type in the chat box. And in any case, thank you so much for joining me today. It's a pleasure to bring to you a new topic, to talk about something else from a different perspective. Thank you so much for joining me today, and have a lovely evening. Any next session, Lata? Yes, I do these webinars every 2 weeks. So if you look at Illuminations calendar, I think the next one I'm doing is on the 20th of April. So you please join me. It will be a different topic. It is more on ancestral healing, family baggage that we carry. So, and otherwise, if you like it, just go on to the website. You will have a, you can go to my profile as well and look at the dates for the upcoming webinars. Once in 2 weeks, I'm here, definitely. Thank you, Illuminations. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. Bye.